Do you want to tweet and just say that we started?
Yeah.
I just did that. I did it just before you said it. Great minds.
All right. So, Tony, I think we can start. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Welcome to the second installment of Ask the Masters with Tony Brown and Brent Peterson. This week's guest will be Vinai Kopp. Vinai is a Magento Master, a Magento Expert, a Magento Developer, and a Magento Trainer, and the proud founder of Mage2 TV. And he'll be on at approximately 6:15 Central European time, 5:15 GMT, 11:15 Central Standard Time. So welcome, everybody. I'm here with Tony, and we're going to go over some Magento news to start, and then Vinai is going to join us, and then we'll go into some questions with Vinai, and then into question and answers with everybody else.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So Tony, do you want to introduce yourself for people that don't know you?
Yeah, I'm Tony Brown. I'm the technical director at Space 48. I was a Magento Master for 2017. And we were the creators of Mage Titans, the developer conference. So yeah, that's me. Brent, do you want to say who you are? I'm sure everybody knows, but let's do it.
Yeah, I'm Brent Peterson. I am also a Magento Master. And I am also an organizer of Mage Titans. I was given some Kool-Aid by Tony last year or the year before. I don't remember when it was, and suddenly I just had to do these conferences. So very excited.
That's how we roll. Well, speaking of which, you had an event not too long ago.
Yeah, so
we
had
Mexico.
Right, we just put on Mage Titans in Mexico, and it was. I have to say it was a very well attended event. I think we had about 220 people there, and it is showing how well Magento is growing in the LATAM community. So it has been it's been a good experience to both be in Mexico City and to build out or help to contribute to that Magento community in Mexico, as well as seeing how the Magento community itself is growing. I think around the world there is a disconnect sometimes between what what agencies would like to see from a business side to the community side on what Magento developers are doing. And certainly there's a little bit of a disconnect around the world between what is sort of the geekdom or geekiness of Magento developers and I used to be a developer in a past life. I only play one now on webinars, but I think that there is a space in which developers want to live, and they don't really want to sometimes deal with all the sales side of things. So conferences are a time where sort of we mix between the two, and I think Mage Titans is a great opportunity for developers to come and feel good about the people there. I mean, I think any Magento event really is a time where developers can come and collaborate and learn about what's new in the community. And I think one of the things that Mage Titans does is it brings to life some of those ideas that developers are having, and it gives the new up and coming developers a voice to speak to the general community, as well as seasoned developers that are going to show something. So a good example is last year at Mage Titans in Texas, we had the PWA was kind of not launched, but it certainly was was brought to light by James Zetlin. And now he's gone around, been speaking all over the world about PWA. And so we've had a good opportunity to bring some of these things that are happening in Magento to at least developers and to Magento agencies, so they can start seeing what are some of the things that are happening. So as a long-winded way of saying, Mage Titans is a great opportunity for anybody to learn more about what's happening in the Magento community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to hear the success there in Latin America. Was there attendees coming from all across the continent, or was it mainly focused around Mexico? Do you know?
Yeah, so the majority of the developers. Well, no, I should say that we had people from Argentina and Colombia, Chile. So we did have we had people visiting from all over LATAM, but the majority of the people there were from Mexico.
Yeah,
and the majority of the developers were Mexican developers. Not all from Mexico City, so we did bring people in from all over Mexico. So it was good to see people, arriving with their suitcases, and it was a really good event.
Great. Yeah, the it's there's a lot of change. You mentioned PWA, and the pressure that developers sometimes feel to keep up to date with things. They can sort of lock themselves away and keep learning. I think it's really productive to get that opportunity for them to network and connect with other developers and people giving up their time to share the knowledge and experience. I think we're very lucky that there's so many people that are generous in this community to do that. Was there any particular standout talks or content from Mexico?
Well, so I'll be honest, the talks were all in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish that well, but I mean, so Madeline was the MC at the event, and she MC'd in Spanish. So, that's I can get some feedback from her, but I think that we did have a presenter that did PWA, and that was actually, I should say, every single talk was very well attended. I think we had a full house. I think we had planned for 150 and we had 220 show up or something like that. So we had to put more chairs out. We definitely we had an after party where we had to, add more to the budget with the hotel. So all around it was a good problem to have. So, I mean, I think the main topics that held a lot of weight was the progressive web apps. And then there was a lot of topics just on Magento development, best practice, things like that. There were some LATAM specific talks. Andrew Devlin was there. He gave a talk about the Magento community and how it's impacted his business. And there were some other, sort of business type talks that resonated well with developers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, speaking of progressive web apps, then there was another event recently, Reacticon, which was in the Netherlands. Gise, another Magento Master, Rietzma. He was behind that event solely around PWA, and there's a number of companies and people pushing forward, including Magento, on implementing the problems around PWA, solving the problems around PWA. And I believe it was quite a successful event. I couldn't make it myself, but they've just actually shared videos through Yurio, the site of Gise. So probably encourage people to check that out, because there was some very cool speakers there. And we've also got Mage Titans Italy next week. And I know there's a couple of PWA talks there. I know Jamie from Deity, she's going to be there talking about their PWA solution. And I believe Andrew, is it Levine? not sure how to pronounce his name, from Magento themselves, talking about PWA Studio. So there's some good speakers there. If people are able to make that, should check it out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess to back up a little bit, do you want to explain what PWA is to the audience and to the broadcast? Just a little bit of background on what it is and maybe why it seems to be important right now in the Magento space.
Sure. So PWA, being Progressive Web App, is a technology that can change the way that your website is effectively served. It's the browser that you're using, be it on a phone or on your desktop, has to support it, but it was originally driven by Google to enhance the experience of a website and to support things so that they're more of an app-like experience on your mobile device when you're visiting a site. So the technologies that are at play are going to allow things such as being able to receive push notifications, because you can sort of install the website as an app. It support so it gets added to your home screen. There's also the performance side of this, because it works in more of an app-like way. You're only changing areas of the page in one go, so the performance increase is quite significant. And there's different people looking at ways to implement this right now. There's different approaches. Some are looking to support more of these features than others. Another feature is like even being able to have functionality when you're offline. So you could actually still browse your website, your catalog, whilst there's no internet connection, which is a really interesting feature. And even I know one of the solutions is looking to be able to allow orders still to be placed while you're offline, and they sort of get queued and pushed through once your internet connection comes back. So yeah, it's about enhancing that experience, so it's more performant, more app-like, as I say, but this can scale to the desktop as well and get benefits there also. So it really is interesting where that's going.
So just so let me get this straight then. So we can browse to a website, then it's going to show up as like an icon on our home screen on our iPhone. We can click on that, and that'll cache some of that data from the site. And soon, if we're on Virgin trains going northeast up to Newcastle, and every other stop we're losing our Wi-Fi, we could still be browsing the site at a fairly good speed, and then I've actually also heard about the caching some of those orders.
I mean that's going to be fairly tricky to implement, because there's a lot of scenarios to deal with there. If you had limited stock, how that could handle if the order couldn't be fulfilled with the expectation around delivery, if you were back ordering or things like that. But certainly from at least the browsing experience, that's a definite easier win, that if people's internet connection is dropping out because it's stored it to the device effectively.
Right.
Data. It's about shifting a lot of actually the grunt of what's happening onto the device itself, so that this empowers you to be able to have a faster experience and an offline experience. So that brings with it a trickiness, of implementation, and that's why there's a lot of people trying to push forward and understand the best way they can work with this technology. And certainly, Magento have recognized this as an opportunity and probably where the future is going with the front end side of things. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works.
Great. So, and I see that Vinai has reached his hotel.
Okay.
And he is just getting to his computer. This is like breaking news. So I want to let you know that Vinai is at his hotel, and he will be on shortly. And we are just going to get him into his place where it's somewhat quiet, and he'll join us. So give me 1 second here, but keep talking.
I've got one thing to say on the PWA itself. It was Google that was sort of pushing this forward. A lot of people are speculating on whether PWA is indeed the future of website development, or whether it's a bit of a fad or something like that. But certainly there's a lot of interest around it, and something that can drive the adoption of technology like this is certainly the impact around the search engines. And we know that Google have altered their algorithms over time to prefer sites that have mobile content, mobile first. So if they end up making that shift to promote sites that provide that app-like experience and support PWA, I believe that really could be, the final element that drives everybody to need to implement PWA type sites.
And so just to make a distinguishment, if that's a word, how to distinguish between PWA and an actual app. With the PWA, you don't have to have this in the Google Store or Google Play, or you don't have to have it in the iTunes Store. This is something that the vendor can, the web vendor can maintain on the server, and then some of that data is cached to your local instance to enhance the performance.
Exactly. And I think that's why, when this originally came out, as I say, it was a Google thing, and that, as I mentioned, it's dependent on the browser supporting the technology. And Apple were sort of holding back, as it were, which would indeed restrict the uptake. And people were saying, well, it's never going to fully take off if Apple and Safari browsers and Apple phones are not going to support it. But that has been changed. That has changed now, and I believe it's in beta. The support for it in Safari browsers, so it is happening.
Cool. All right. So I see Vinai has joined, and I just wanted to make.
Is that Vinai's younger, more good-looking brother?
This is 1980s hair superstar Vinai.
That was 80s, yeah. Not going that way.
Yes.
Head of hair,
by the way.
Yes, you look great. You look ready to drive. To drive a 1980s American supercar, or whatever they are, the muscle car.
Can we go on to the next slide, please?
Oh, funny.
All right. Well, welcome, Vinai. Thank you for making time for us. Tony and I were just kind of going over PWA and what that means to Magento, and how that's kind of fitting into the community and what's happening now. So
Awesome.
We appreciate you joining us, and we're excited to have you.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Yeah. So if you don't mind just doing a brief introduction about yourself and what you're doing, and maybe where you came from.
All right, great. Okay. My name is Vinai. Blah, blah. German, and been a web developer for a long time now, 20 years. And working with Magento since 2008. Yeah, since the beta. So got lucky, got to speak at the first Meet Magento, and since then it's been a fun ride. So yeah, I'm still around. Never would have thought to be in the Magento ecosystem this long, but it's good. So yeah, that's why I'm still here. I'm currently in Berlin at Magento U training. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, the developer training. And otherwise I do client work. So I'm primarily consider myself a developer. Even though I do a whole bunch of trainings, I still, it's important to me to continue to do development because that's actually what I like doing. So,
yeah, I think because we have a couple of Magento U trainers as well, and I think the struggle is how do you, if you're not doing day-to-day development, how do you keep up with what's happening in Magento? And do you feel like giving training helps you to keep up with things and sort of forces you to be a better developer all the time because you are presented with questions that would come from, maybe you don't know them or something like that?
Yeah, so all the time, right? Yeah, absolutely. If I have, just last night, I started doing a certain part, some kind of exercise. Oh, let's build this, right? Let's try this out and figure out how it works. And we didn't quite finish it, so the day passed. So during the evening, I was sitting there trying to figure it out. And well, then today I could present the remainder of the exercise, and I'm sure I'll use that knowledge in a project. So certainly it motivates to learn more and to understand things to be able to teach them. That's a good way to learn. Right. And I've heard that a lot, of course, same as you probably, right? A lot of the people that I work with, lead developers or others, enjoy doing this kind of learning to teach, company internal or whatever. So,
right.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I am not a Magento trainer. We have one on staff. I have been, yes. I was lucky enough, I think in 2011, to be on a course with Vinai and Ben Marks as my teachers.
That was fun. That was in Chicago, right? Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah. And I've been doing Magento since 1987.
Oh, there you go.
When I had as much hair as you.
I used to have,
yeah.
So what was the Magento U training? What's the makeup of that that you're doing?
It's actually in changing at the moment, right? So for a couple of years, we have been doing this fundamentals of Magento 2 development bootcamp. So the main training is on demand, and then it's possible to book this classroom add-on, which is 4 days. And during those 4 days, it's primarily focused on hands-on development work, exercises. And afterwards, the students get feedback and we move on to the next exercise. But I've been changing this a little bit because new courses are being developed at the moment for now that the certifications are out. And also the 4th day of the training used to be a knowledge assessment, but now that the certification will be out soon, the associate developer certification, things are changing a bit. So we have a chance to do more training and change the content a little because we have a bit more time. So yeah, things are developing.
And I think one of the ideas or expectations of Magento at the end of training is if you take the course should give you enough knowledge to pass the associate developers test. Is that correct?
That is correct. So all the trainings have a certain prerequisite section, and not everybody who joins the training actually read that section, I guess. So it's not a guaranteed pass, but we will be covering all the sections of the certification, the associate developer certification in the training that is yet currently being developed. It's not yet released. And yeah, so that's the idea.
And I think at Magento Imagine, they are planning on having the beta for the associate training test, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. It's not a beta, first of all. There is no public or semi-public beta for the associate developer exam. Actually, any of the new exams, there's no better program.
Okay.
That's not how this new head of certification of Magento works. He doesn't do better. He's got reasons, so it's good. So it's the real exam. And I know they're doing a certification readiness class.
Yeah, that's on
One-day
Sunday.
workshop or half-a-day workshop or something. I think Laura Falco is leading it. And it's basically to determine whether you're ready to go and take the exam. But that's for the professional exam.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when the associate developer exam will be available. It's written, so...
Yeah, my understanding is that it will be available at Imagine, but
yeah.
I guess...
I'm pretty sure it will be available then. Later.
Yeah, you can get... there's 50% off, I believe, at the minute if you go to Magento U site and under certifications.
Yeah.
So if you are going, and that's for Imagine, to take it at Imagine. Right. So if you're going along, then it's probably a good time to give it a go.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, just check it out, and afterwards you know exactly what's needed. So even if you don't pass, I think it's a good strategy to figure out how to go and learn for it afterwards. Right.
What was your involvement, if any, with the creation of the new exams? Because I know there was some sort of sessions around that.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah, they did a Magento U, meaning they, right? So there was a certification development exam writing workshop. For the professional exam, it was a 4-day workshop in London. And for the associate exam, it was a 4-day workshop in Orlando. So a bunch of guys got together, and I was one of them. And we wrote question, and the workshop was facilitated and led by Peter Maniak, again, the guy from the head of certification of Magento U. And at the end of the 4 days, all the questions were written and entered into Web Assessor. So that was pretty amazing to see how it's possible to create an exam in only 4 days, given the right processes in place. Because for the Magento 1 certification, it took for ages, writing a lot of questions and quality reviewing them and doing better and doing more questions. And it took months and months, and now it's so much faster. And the quality of the exams is actually higher, interestingly enough. I didn't expect that, but it worked out, so it's great. That's the feedback I've been getting too from people who already have taken the exam.
And what about I know that the Magento 1 exam was fairly difficult to pass, especially the Developer Plus. And I can say that I failed 2 of them. So I know that they were difficult to pass. Do you feel like the questions are equally weighted to really test your knowledge?
The questions now are quite different compared to the Magento 1 exam. We were encouraged to write them as scenario-based questions. There are 2 reasons for that, at least 2 that I know of. For one, it really is closer to real work. Even though it's still multiple choice, it takes more context knowledge to be able to determine, okay, these are the pieces of information that are given, so how can I relate those to the possible answers? And it's more like real work. And secondly, it's less easy to memorize answers. So if people cheat and buy answers, it's not as useful. Right? So the style of the questions is quite different now. I believe they're better. And at the same time, I don't know to say if it's more difficult or easier. I guess it's more difficult in a way because it's more relevant questions, but at the same time it's easier because you don't have to memorize XML nodes or argument orders or method names or class names and stuff like that. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I know. I do remember from an agency side, it was in the previous tests, it was easy to get, or I've heard of agencies that were able to get developers automatically or trained and passed the test in say 6 weeks. So I think for doing that, that is a big degree of memorization. So it sounds like there's less chance of of developers just memorizing the test and then being able to pass it. You actually have to know something.
I hope so. I mean, it is a multiple choice exam, and just because somebody is able to pass it doesn't necessarily mean he's a better developer, right? But it does mean he put some effort in, and it doesn't mean he's a bad developer either. And we need some kind of distinguishing elements in the ecosystem for people to prove that at least they, have some experience, and I believe that actually is required. And if I thinking back when we released or created Magento 1 exam and released it, it did have a big impact on the whole quality of the ecosystem, because people were motivated to learn, to study, and remember things that previously they just always looked up again on Stack Overflow. They had to gain the knowledge themselves. So even though a certain percentage will probably game the whole thing and memorize it, it's just part of the thing, I guess, right? You can't, I wouldn't know how to stop that.
Yeah.
I think it will have an impact. And that actually was the main reason for me to really invest into being part of this and help making it a good exam, because I remember it having a big impact. So I wanted to see the same thing happen here.
I mean, I think the bottom line is that from a merchant standpoint or from an agency standpoint, if that person has passed that test, they have some level of knowledge. And that gives you, that gives you sort of a starting point, at least, to say, yes, I can add this developer to our team. They have some level of knowledge that they understand Magento. And let's be honest, Magento 2 is a little bit different than Magento 1 and will require a different set of skills, maybe not set of skills, but at least a set of knowledge that's different than what you needed in Magento 1. So having that background and having at least passing the test is going to give you at least from a starting point, knowing where that person's going to start.
Right. And it also, it sets a certain set of standards how to do things or how to approach problems in a way, because if it's part of the certification, then it's like approved. People can refer to it, can study it, will know it afterwards. So you can assume people will be able to do it. Yeah. So I am agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that they call it the professional developer certification that came out on March 1st, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I know from the Magento side, from the Magento U side, we've been giving training in Mexico for about a year now. And this last time was the first time we've sold out a class completely. So, I mean, I think that's showing that it is resonating finally with developers. And before you joined, we did talk about how, in certain countries, the Magento community isn't as strong as other countries. And now we're seeing specifically in Mexico, we're seeing a really good turnout and a feedback on how Magento is perceived and how developers perceive Magento. And so I think these tests and Magento U are giving a good, are making it so developers feel good about what they're learning, and then merchants and agencies and can feel good about hiring those people.
That's, I guess, the goal. Yeah.
We didn't mention at the beginning, we've got Madeline in the webinar as well. Who'll be, if anybody wants to ask any questions, you can do it in the Q&A section. We did receive some questions beforehand as well. I can see someone's already asked a question, which was the question I was going to ask anyway. So I'm going to, Madeline will chip in later with the questions, but I'm going to ask this one. It was from Tig. And he was asking, what is the difference between those two certifications that's been mentioned, the associate one and then the professional developer one? I know there's the solutions specialist one, which is different, but what's the difference between those two, the developer ones?
That's, it's not obvious from the names. The difference is the professional certification, professional developer, certified professional Magento Certified Professional Developer, oh, whatever, the professional exam, right? The professional exam is meant to prove 1.5 years of experience, at least, of working with Magento 2 as a developer. And so it's more of an advanced certification. I don't think it's easy to pass at all. Right? It certainly is a challenging exam. And then there's the associate level exam, which is meant to prove you successfully participated in training of a week or two. So it's much lower point of entry, and it's supposed to be an entry-level certification into the market. I assume many people will start with taking the associate developer exam, and then after they have some real hands-on job experience, they can move on and take the professional developer exam. Yeah, that's the idea. And I think that it makes sense for people to have this stepping stone, right, to get into the job market with Magento. So passing the professional exam will be a lot more valuable, I think, than the associate developer exam. But if I have the choice between hiring somebody who's, with an associate or no exam, well, or certification, I guess, yeah, it's obvious what we'll get.
So I'm going to lead you down a path here, I think, but what would you think are the things that people could do in order to prepare for the exam and to learn Magento?
Yeah. The best resource, I believe, is the study guide that Jacob wrote of Swift Otter. It's Joseph Maxwell. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jacob. I was really impressed by that. We finished the professional exam. He wasn't part of that workshop, but a week later, he had written the study guide, 170 pages. Really impressive and good stuff. So thanks for that. I think that's the best resource out there currently until the new updated trainings have been released. I guess those would be good too. And he also prepared a study guide for the associate exam already, even though we can't even do the exam yet, right? And he also wrote the study guide for the solution specialist. And for the professional developer exam, he also created a 30-question test exam with different questions. So a great resource for free. It's just you have to register with your email and you get those resources. It's those I can highly recommend. I haven't taken the test exam, to be honest, but I've read the study guide and I think it's good. So
okay. And Joseph is a speaker at Mage Titans as well.
There you go. He's an all-around great guy. He's smart,
and he's a runner.
Friendly. He's a runner?
Yes.
His brother is. I don't know.
I ran with him in Austin, so I know.
Awesome! Really?
All the good people are runners. Is that right?
Yeah. Absolutely. We're all runners in this group.
I'm a fan. Lots of runners, yeah. Okay, other resources. Well, there's, of course, the official Magento U trainings, and then there's, I have to mention this here, right? There's Mage2 TV, which is about to be made, the final go live with a subscription model. And I definitely plan on releasing relevant content for the certifications. I won't have everything covered that quickly, but I can promise that people who follow along with the content will be better prepared to take the exam.
So tell us a little bit more about Mage2 TV. I've been on the site. And I personally think it's a fantastic resource. But tell us a little bit about how it's set up and how you can get on it and what you're going to see when you're there.
Right. So I basically was inspired to build this because it's something I would like to have working with Magento 2. That's something I was missing personally. And my idea is to build something that's kind of like Laracast, which is probably the most prominent version of this in the PHP world, only for specialized on Magento 2. Kind of like, it's slightly different. I want to use it, there should be two use cases. One is to use it as a reference. So when I have to do something, let's say I want to write a plugin that changes the behavior of a protected method, like that's normally not possible. How do I do it, right? I want to be able to search and quickly get an answer and I don't want to be overwhelmed by 15 minutes of content, just very focused, here's what you do, that kind of thing. Or I want to be able to use it to learn a certain subject. Like, okay, how can I add private content onto a page that's fully cached in the full page cache, right? Maybe I need a bit of more context knowledge so I can look at maybe a bunch of videos that are covering that topic fully. So it's like a training resource. That's the idea. And it's a subscription site. Currently it's in beta, so the first batch of content, which is about 2 hours, about setup scripts and EAV, it's free so far. My plan is once the site is complete, which is very soon, I want to produce one more batch of content and then release that together with Go Live. So I'll start producing that content next week. So
okay.
I'm really almost there. Yeah.
And so just so people get an idea, how long is each video? Is each video? Yeah.
Each video is between 30 seconds and 5 minutes, maybe.
Okay, so that's fantastic.
Really short, yeah. So you can just hit play and enable autoplay, and it'll play one after the other in a logical order. But you can also search for one very specific topic and just get that little bite. So that's how to use it as a reference.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea.
Yeah, that sounds like a great resource. Good.
So.
And how are you going to decide what topics to cover? You mentioned you're going to hit some more this next week. How are you going about picking the topics to hit first?
That's a really tough one, actually. I want to cover everything, right? But I have to do some things first. I've got the site topics.mage2.tv. It's a GitHub page which lists a bunch of topics, and you can vote for it if people visiting it by clicking a link to a GitHub repo, and each topic is an issue in the GitHub repo, and by giving a +1 or a thumbs up or a smiley, that's a vote for the topic. So the most highest voted topic, I think I'll cover those first. Also, at the moment, I'm considering, Magento 2.3 is just around the corner. And there are so much new stuff in Magento 2.3. And I really would like to cover that soon, like declarative schema upgrades or the Graph SQL API and all that stuff. So yeah, that's another thing I would want to consider. And finally, we talked about that, Tony, right? If you, for example, like Space 48 has interest in a certain topic because you want to, you see a need for it, or you think the development teams would benefit from it. We talked about maybe sponsoring the development of certain sections of the content in a way. So I would prioritize those, of course. So my idea to start next week, though, is the most highly voted topic, which is full page caching and hole punching, or adding dynamic private content onto the page there, which is kind of complex, but the Magento 2 contains like a little sub-architecture to do that in a certain way, which covers a wide range of scenarios. It's kind of nice because it utilizes local storage and determines, it's quite nice. It doesn't cover all use cases, but quite a lot. And it's complex enough that it's not very, just by looking at the code, it takes quite a long time to really get it. So I hope to be able to produce some good content there.
And not to go down a rabbit hole, but really quickly, will you be covering varnish caching and full page caching, or is it just full page cache?
Varnish is the full page cache in production, I would say.
Okay.
The PHP full page cache, that's like a built-in full page cache.
Mm-hmm.
I know people use it in production, but come on.
Okay, so I think it's good that
idea to use varnish.
Yeah, I think they're right. It's just I'm just trying to educate the end users that we're going to be using varnish. and
Yes.
even for developers, that this is what you need to learn how to do. So that's really good.
Absolutely.
I think
And
it
also-
is important to say, because a lot of people unfortunately get this stuff wrong with the custom development they're doing, and they're really hurting their stores from the performance side of things. So spreading that education and that knowledge there, I think I can see why there's demand for it, because it can get a little bit confusing, tricky, and there's some paths that people can go down that seemingly the impact doesn't seem that big, but unfortunately it can be. So I can understand why that area has been popular.
Yeah.
All right, so we should. Sorry, Vinai.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should move into Q&A now, just because we're already running into some time constraints, and I know we have a lot of questions.
But
so
you haven't looked at any code yet. No, please go.
Yeah, I mean, just one last thing. Maybe I would love to talk about lizards and pumpkins as well, but I know we don't have time now. But let's let some people ask questions, and we're probably going to have you back at some point.
I mean, this is about Magento primarily, I guess, right? So coming into this will be Magento context. So let's
we'll do a whole different lizards and pumpkins webinar, because I think it's super exciting. Anyways, Madeline, why don't you ask some questions, and I think let's start with make sure we cover who's asked questions live. I think we have a few people, and then we have some people that sent in questions as well.
Okay. First question from Ashutosh _2. Is associated exam necessary, or can it be skipped and just take professional developer exam?
Oh, okay. It's not necessary unless you want to collect badges for the Magento forums, for example. You don't have to take the associate. You can just do the professional. I guess many people will want to have many badges, but you don't have to do one to do the other. Well, however, that said, Magento, you will be releasing more certifications in the months and years to come, and they've got a lot of great ideas and plans, also how to combine certifications. So a lot of stuff's coming there. I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to talk about or not. So I
think that's okay. I think there's going to be like a full stack. If you get the JavaScript and the back end, and if you get a bunch, I think it's 3 or 4, you will get a full stack badge as well. So so it's going to be there'll be plenty of ways to collect bling, Magento bling, virtual bling for the education standpoint.
It's all about the badges, right? Yeah, the badges.
Madeline, can you ask your next question in German, please?
No.
I'll translate, don't worry.
Okay, the next question is from
Tig.
Tig Bo.
Tig. Hey, my man.
Yeah, we know Tig. Tig, he's speaking at Imagine this year, I believe.
He's an awesome speaker. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He asks, what are you looking forward to most at Imagine?
You, Tig, and your talk.
There you go.
Yeah, Simple. And I will say that we are going to be speaking live from Imagine on April 25th, but just keep going. Sorry.
Very good. Yay. No, I'm also looking forward to meeting, besides Tig, all right, that's number one. I also have a bunch of other people that I'm looking forward to meeting and seeing again. I'm basically, I decided to go to Imagine because of the people.
Oh, fantastic.
Good. So our session there, Brent is, I won't be on this one, but Tom Robert Shaw, who's a Magento Master for this year.
Yeah.
Joining you, and probably John Woodall as well from Space 48. So should be a good session.
Yeah, good.
So we're going to move into our questions that were asked before we started the webinar. Do you guys want to do the ones in green, or do you want me to ask the ones for Vinai?
Yeah, so I think we've covered a couple of them already. There was Mike McCoy asked, is there any way to help contribute to Mage2 TV?
Ooh, thanks. Great question. Yeah, please subscribe as soon as I publish. I put so much work into that. I really needed to, to make at least a little money out of it sooner or later to keep going. That said, any feedback is appreciated. Go to the website. At the moment, there's a little pink banner at the bottom. If you click it, it takes you straight to the GitHub issue page where you can open issues, and I'm very grateful for any feedback, any issues, any ideas you have, because for me as a developer, it's really not easy trying to come up with what makes sense, what is a good way to use this thing, right? So some of my ideas didn't work out because people just didn't like it, so I had to change it a bit. So yeah, please keep feedback coming. That's a great way to contribute, and thanks for everybody who might be watching, maybe, and who actually gave some feedback already.
And just to say, we will have show notes that we'll publish with the video after this. So we'll put as many notes as we can into the show notes, and people have the links. They'll have the links for Mage2 TV and for the GitHub page, everything they need.
Yeah, github.com/Mage2TV/issues. That's the repo.
Perfect.
Right.
Any more? I think a lot of them were covered, Maddie.
Yeah.
I'm looking at time. Maybe time for one more.
Yeah. What about? There are a lot of questions.
Okay, I'll try to answer quicker. Keep going, please.
What about?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
What about this one from Harpreet Singh? How to achieve Magento 2 deployments without downtime? Is symbolic linking the only way?
No, I wouldn't say so. It certainly helps, though. As from my current understanding, at least on the project that I've worked with, it was only possible to get zero downtime deployments if there were no database schema changes or data changes in setup scripts. So as long as the setup version isn't changed, it's possible to deploy a new version of the code using symlinks, or maybe on a different machine, switch over, and with a cache flush, everything's done. You don't have to run setup upgrade. That's why it's generally a good idea not to keep the module version and the schema version in sync. The schema version should only be updated if there actually is a need to run the setup scripts, and then it's possible to get zero downtime.
Certainly the later version as well, is it 2.2, that means some of the other steps can be done. Is it the static content deploy?
Those might be necessary depending on the code change, right? It really depends there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
we're the latest version, you should be able to do it. Sorry, go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing a lot of these from an agency standpoint, and I think deploying the entire code base into a new directory, having it already tested and built, and then symlinking to the new directory, as long as there's no database change, that is a zero downtime solution that would get you up and running. And especially if there's no database change and you have multiple webheads, you can stage it. So even if it happens within 3 seconds, nobody's going to get downtime in that sense, and everybody's going to see something. So hopefully they'll see something good, right?
Fingers crossed.
I mean, just to be clear, if there is a database update, you have to take users out of the system to do your database update. So that's why we would have some downtime if there's a database update. And then it just brings a whole bunch of new things in if you want to roll back. So we don't have time to get into all that. Mm-hmm. It sounds like we need a whole session just on deployment.
Mm-hmm.
There's another live question come in, Maddie.
It's from Zerpia XA1. Can we have a cart page with Knockout JS?
Sure.
that was quick. I mean, I think, one thing that's going to be, what we're going to see for especially for front-end developers is front-end developers need to be JavaScript developers. And Vinai, correct me if I'm wrong, as Magento 2 matures, more and more of that work for front-end is going to be all in some form of JavaScript.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not really possible to do real customization of any functionality in Magento 2. Well, some, yes, but a lot of it does require a solid understanding of JavaScript. At least I had to learn a lot more JavaScript with Magento 2. So I think it's true for probably many developers, formerly only backend developers. And I'm not quite sure what that question just now meant, actually. If it meant like UI component XML for like admin forms and grids, or because the current checkout is based on Knockout.js to some degree. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. That's all it did. It literally just said that. Can we have a cart page with Knockout.js? So have you got in Mage2 TV any content around that yet?
No, because I mean, to be honest, you were talking about PWAs already, right? So officially, Magento will be, running this two-pronged approach of supporting everything they've got right now, and in addition to that, you support PWA. But to be honest, I guess they will at one point kind of focus more on one side than the other, and it depends how the whole ecosystem will react. But to be honest, if we have the choice, do we really want to continue working with Knockout.js? So I'm a little hesitant putting in, 100 hours of work producing content for it, which if people are interested, I mean, sure, I don't mind at all.
Well, there's the UI components side of things. I know someone's doing a talk next week on UI components in Italy at Mage Titans. Who's that?
True that. So it's a talk about UI components. UI components.
That's you, right? Just for clarity.
Yeah, that's me, right. And it's kind of crazy because I bitched a lot about UI components, so I feel like why should I be talking about this topic after complaining so much about it in the past 2 years? However, I spent a lot of time thinking about why I don't like them, what makes them hard to use and understand and learn, and and the talk is about how we can use them in a way that isn't that painful, right, or hard to use. The system doesn't really support us in doing that, but we as developers can make choices to work with them in a certain way. So the idea for the talk is to take idea out of more modern frameworks like React and Vue and Elm web architecture or some closure script architectures, and applying the same ideas to Knockout.js, right? Writing in a nutshell how to create the front end as a function of the state and not putting the state into the view, but instead keeping it separate. And how can that look with Knockout, for example, right? With UI components, client-side UI components. And at the same time, I hope that talking about the ideas behind these frameworks, or that these frameworks and approaches have in common, will help developers coming from a more traditional Magento 1, Magento 2 Knockout background to prepare for, PWA, the new bright future.
Cool.
Yeah.
If people aren't in Europe and they can't make that talk, it will be published online, though, on YouTube.
I hope so.
Mage Titans, so people should check that out.
Yeah, and I know that all of our talks from Mexico are getting produced right now. So, the talks from almost all the Mage Titans will be published on YouTube as well as this. And Tony, I see more people joining, and I'm wondering if, because of the time zone, that we did have some people that thought it was started now. So maybe we could we might just let this run right over the top of the hour just a little bit, so we get, if there's anybody that was going to join at noon Central or 7 Central Eastern European time, they can. We'll certainly. They'll be able to go back and watch the entirety of the presentation, but we are kind of pushing up to the end of the hour. So Vinai, did you want to give us any parting remarks or any wisdom that you can think of?
Yeah, I guess. Thanks. Thanks for having me here. For me, one of the most important things to keep in mind is keep having fun with what I'm doing. It's sometimes easy to forget if there's a lot of pressure and time constraints or budgetary constraints. At least a little bit of freedom to do something that's fun helps me a lot, and I hope that's maybe a good part in.
And what is your advice to that junior developer, or what is your advice to that developer that's taking the Magento course for the first time, and they're kind of fresh and they're excited about seeing the code, and maybe they've never had experience in Magento? What is your advice to that person when they finish the week at the boot camp?
Yeah, well, to keep working immediately. Don't wait a couple of months. Otherwise, it's a waste of time to spend a couple of days on a training or a boot camp. It's really good to just stick with it and start working. Yeah.
Great. I guess to kind of finish it out, for you, are there any marathons that you've signed up for this year?
Nah, the last one really hurt, so I'm not planning on running a marathon. Actually, I'm happy it's over, and I'm just beginning to enjoy longer runs again. Maybe, but no.
And just to let people know that are joining now, we've spent the last hour not talking about running, which I think is a good accomplishment. So, but we do.
I thought we were.
We're running code. So let's talk about what's up next. And by the way, thank you, Vinai, for being on. And it certainly seems like we need more than the 45 minutes we've had. We actually have more questions that could be asked, and I can even see more people joining now. So, and we have a lot of topics to cover. So certainly we're going to have to find another time to have you back on. So our next Ask the Masters will be live from Las Vegas. And, Vinai, if you're around on that Wednesday, maybe we'll invite you, or we would love to invite you to kind of join in and as much space as we can have to have people in our conversation. That would be awesome. We are kind of doing it more as this is what's happened in the Magento community. This is what's happened at Imagine. And here's some things that you should be looking for the next year. I think it's kind of an open topic. I'll be with Tom Robertshaw at the event. Tony, I think you're running a marathon that day, Tony, right? So he can't make it. I think, are you doing the Boston Marathon? I think it's the same day. So so he won't be there, but we will have a live broadcast at the times here. If there's a different time, we'll tell you. But right now, because of everything that's happening, we've chosen 1 p.m. Pacific, which will be later for the people in Europe, unfortunately. But it'll be in your evening time in GMT and Central European time to join. But we will have some really good feedback and hopefully some guests that we can bring in during the talk live. So Vinai, if you're still there on Wednesday, we would love to have you just come in and say hello.
Yeah, I'm there.
Good. Excellent. So we will be tweeting and telling you more about what we're going to be having, and then it's going to be fun. So it won't be, it'll just be kind of a what's happened. So that's what we're doing April 25th. It's Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific.
Are you doing anything special, like playing cards or doing some kind of...
We certainly have some exciting things that I cannot tell you. My first thing was let's actually go through each question on the associate exam and do it live for everybody. And then they're like, no,
Yes.
that's going to be super boring. And then my next thing was like, yeah, let's do it like live at the Big Damn Run instead while we're running. And then everybody again is like, no, Brent, you have the worst ideas in the world. Anyways, yes, imagine April 25th is our next big date. And then we have our schedule up. And Tony, do you want to kind of go through the schedule for the upcoming months?
Yeah, sure. So as mentioned, there's a Mage Titans event next week, back end of next week in Milan, Italy. As Brent was just mentioning, ahead of Imagine, there's the Big Damn Run, which is a really popular event. So if you're going to Imagine, make sure you get yourself involved in that. Then on to Imagine itself and the webinar that we were just discussing. We've got a date fixed for May for the following Ask the Masters webinar. The dates have been fixed for Mage Titans Netherlands as October 6th. And we've had a bit of a schedule change for Mage Titans in Austin, Texas. That's been pushed out from September to October 26th. So that's in the back garden of Magento themselves. That's a great event if you're stateside. If you can make it out there, definitely worth checking out. And then back to the home, spiritual home of Mage Titans, where the original event was, on November 10th. We're back in Manchester for Mage Titans then.
Yeah, so I just want to say that we will be getting Mage Titans itself will be getting more support from Magento. Not that they already didn't have enough support, but there will be some really good content at any of these Mage Titans events. And at every event, we encourage people to apply if you want to speak. It's a great opportunity if you haven't spoken before to have a chance to like tell people what share some knowledge that you have from Magento about Magento. And if you don't want to speak, it's a great place to learn about Magento. So I would say definitely attend one of the events. And there's going to be events all over the world. We don't have our 2019 calendar up, but I can't even believe we're talking about 2019. But certainly there'll be at least I think 7 or 8 Mage Titans events in 2019. So it's a great opportunity for any developer to join and to contribute and to really learn what's happening.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, well, thank you, everybody.
So I know we've gone a little. Sorry, Tony. Yep, go ahead.
That's all right. Yeah, no, thank you all, and Maddie as well, and thank you everyone who's attended. And if you have joined late, as Brent said, the recording will be available, so you can revisit the whole content.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to future episodes. So cool. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And again, I still people keep joining. So it seems that the time zone.
Clock change. The clock change.
So if you're still joining, we apologize that the time zone difference probably hit. I think that all over the world we're changing our clocks. And this presentation will be published, and we'll be tweeting the links to the presentation after the broadcast. So so tell your friends about our April 25th presentation, and Vinai will be back, and maybe Vinai will poke you a little bit about lizards and pumpkins at Imagine.
All right. Looking forward to it.
All right. Yep, that's great. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.